There's an old saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. You don't know what you have if you don't have it. And that's what happens to defenses when they don't have good off-ball linebackers. On today's show, we're going to get into 3 names that you need to watch on day 2 of the 2025 NFL Draft, coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I am an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report. And guys, thank you for tapping in with us each and every day, just being our everydayers. Have a fun show to get into today. Jihaad Campbell can do it all. The do-it-all linebacker from Alabama. We're getting the Carson Schwesinger, the do-it-all linebacker, the athletic developmental linebacker from UCLA. And we're going to talk about Barrett Carter's, the Clemson Tigers linebacker. What is his skill set heading into the 2025 NFL Draft? Let's talk about it, guys. Jihaad Campbell, listed at 6'3", 245 pounds. Guy that has aligned all over the Crimson Tide defense. He plays the overhang into the slot. He's in the box. He plays and lines up on the defensive line. On the season, Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama. He had a good year this year. On the season, statistically, 8 sacks, 2 QB hits, 8 sacks, 2 QB hits, 10 hurries, 2 forced fumbles. He also had 89 tackles on the season. A guy also that can drop off in the coverage. What does he do well? Man, he does a lot of things well. Truthfully, he can do it all. He's a 3-down defender. He's going to play the run. He can blitz, and he can rush the passer, including being able to drop off in coverage. Physical downhill thumper. He does not mind meeting running backs in the alley and meeting them with physicality. Again, he's listed at 245 pounds at 6'3", and he's a good athlete. He is what I would call a 3-tool defender, and I just talked about being a 3-down guy. His ability to impact the game as a run defender, right? Triggering downhill, different things of that nature, rushing the passer off the edge, and then dropping off in the coverage. When you can do all 3 of those things and do them at a good level of productivity, yes, and efficiency, that's what you need at the linebacker position. Watching him against LSU, I think it was Kyron Lacey in the slot, playing in the slot, and watch him cover a wide receiver, one of the better route runners in college football in the class at the time, and to watch him cover that in the low red and make the play. This guy gets his hands on the football. He has a nose for the football. I look at Jihaad Campbell and I say, man, he is what Dante Hightower would have been if he was a little bit more athletic. Remember, Dante Hightower was 260, 270, played defensive end, stand-up edge, off-ball backer, all those different things, man. He was just so physically imposing, and he made so many big plays for those Bill Belichick New England Patriot defenses. I think Jihaad Campbell can do similar things just from a smaller, more athletic stature and package. This young man has the ability to cover, drop off into the soft spots and zones, right? Get to his landmarks. I think from a passing standpoint, he had 2 pass breakups, 1 interception on the season. When I look at him, I just feel like this is a guy that's going to give you really good value on 3rd downs. Over his career, really, over the last 2 years, he has over 530 coverage snaps. He is experienced. He's got good experience, right? He's played well over 1,300 snaps in his career for Alabama. So when I look at this situation, I just say, man, this is a guy I want to get into my defense. And you think about just getting a guy like this, like Jihaad Campbell out of Alabama, 6'3", 245 pounds. I'm intrigued to see him at the combine. I want to see what he looks like on the field. The way does he weigh in? How strong is he with the bench? What does he test? Does he test, right? You want to see that straight line speed, the 40 time. Remember, okay, We're not going to overvalue it, but we're going to value it. Okay, guys, we're not going to overvalue the 40, but we're going to put value and respect on the name of the 40-yard dash. But nonetheless, I want to see him run. I want to see him jump, of course, see what the explosive testing look like. When he gets on the field, showcase the hip fluidity. Can you turn and swivel with ease and then be able to trigger downhill and make a play? He plays with good physicality. He runs the alley. Things that I will say that he could improve on. I think with him is just kind of the instincts as a run defender. He falls for in the NFL today. We have a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of eye candy, window dressing. He can get caught staring and get put out of position trying to flow, and he'll lose the ball sometimes if you throw too much at him at times. I think, again, he is experienced, but I do think that's a part of his game where he can develop consistency with taking on blocks and being physical at the point of attack. From looking at him on screen, right, he looks and appears to have long enough arms and a wingspan and things of that nature with his frame to where, hey, like Jalen Walker, when I talk about not watching Jalen Walker, and watch him properly time his punches and use his arm length to keep separation between him and the offensive lineman and basically stop them from and prevent them from latching their hands into his jersey and the shoulder pad. Jihaad Campbell, I think if he improves that ability of that part of his game, it's going to help him out a lot, especially using that arm length, that wingspan, not only against playing off-ball backer, but, think about this is a guy that can walk down to the line of scrimmage, similar to Jalen Walker, line up on the edge, but he can do it out of a 4-3 over, right? Or strong, it's a strong side backer. And you get him head up and lined up against a tight end. He should be able to, I'm not saying dominate that matchup, but with his arm length, with his strength, with his physicality, be able to own most of those reps. And that's what you kind of want to see from him, improving in that regard. But I do think that it's something that he can improve. Listen at 245. That's why I says the combine is going to be interesting because I feel like he's got thin lower halves. Like I feel like his legs he squats, hitting the leg press and the leg extension, leg curls, all that type of stuff. Just strengthen the legs a little bit, add a little bit more strength, more power, more functional mass to the legs, right? You know what I mean? Just add more to the frame, on the lower half of his body. And I think if he does that too, especially like, in the thighs and the calf area, that's going to help him be able to really shock and shed guys, like trigger downhill and really be a battering ram. Because I think that's a big thing is like, especially against a run, like trying to like drop your anchor and hold up, especially if you do walk down on some tight ends. You want to be able to anchor, man. You want to be able to anchor, drop that anchor. Don't allow them to move you off the ball and create running lanes and turn and torque you around like a rag doll. You don't want those things. So I think for him, those are the things I want to see improve. In all honesty, is just being able to add a little bit more to his frame, just be more disciplined with his reads of everything, not just in coverage or not just in the run game, but also in coverage. Just be more disciplined. I think if he's able to do that, he's going to really make himself a premier playmaker at the linebacker position at the next level with his alignment versatility and his just versatile skill set altogether. I'm going to just be honest. This guy, get him with the right defensive coordinator. And as a young kid say nowadays, it's up, baby. It's up. He's going to be a problem for opposing offensive lines and just offenses in general, because he could be a dynamic box player. You know what I mean, and working out of the box. So that's Jihaad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, listed at 6'3", 245 pounds. Coming up next, Carson Schwesinger, coming out of UCLA. Does he remind me? Yes, he does, of a Pittsburgh Steelers rookie linebacker out of NC State, Payton Wilson. We're going to get into that coming up next. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my Detroit Pistons for a late game rally or picking Cade Cunningham or maybe Malik Beasley to hit a clutch late three, I never feel like I'll miss my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. UCLA linebacker Carson Schwesinger, 6'2", 225 pounds, reminds me a whole lot of Payton Wilson coming out of North Carolina State. When I looked at the tape of Carson Schwesinger, it's the coverage ability. Patient, good eye discipline, reads and reacts very well, quickly, working downhill. Guy that loves to work downhill and attack the line of scrimmage, drops off. You know those linebackers who are just so athletic. You don't just tell them 5 to 7. You tell them 7 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15. And you can run some trap coverages with him when you had some of the safeties. A cover 2 invert where the safeties are working down as robbers and he's playing the deep middle and his corners are playing deep thirds. This is the type of guy that you can run a cover 2 invert with as one of your off-ball backers because of not just the athleticism, right? But the fluidity of the hips. He has oily hips, guys. You talking about flip, turn, swivel, all of that, dancing with the stars. He has it all. Like, he can change direction very easily and willingly. Like, when he needs to flip his hips, he can do so and match and mirror guys and stay close. And I just love his sideline to sideline range. He tracks the ball. As a guy that can, I think there's upside with him as a man-to-man coverage defender. Guys, linebackers that can cover running backs out of the backfield on like the wheel routes and different things of that nature. Yeah, Carson Schwesinger is going to give you all of those things, and you should be happy with what you're going to get from him, simply because not everyone is cut from that cloth to be that type of athlete, to bring you that speed downhill. Again, playing that click and close, to be able to play zone coverage. I think he would be an absolute terror in the Tampa 2. I truly believe so, because of his instincts in coverage, because of his athleticism and playmaking prowess. This is a guy that can drop off into coverage, bait you, and pick you off, as pick your quarterback off, right? He had 2 interceptions this season, 2 pass breakups. He also added over roughly 100, maybe a little bit over 100 tackles, 11 hurries, 3 QB hits, 1 forced fumble, and 4 sacks. He will blitz you up the A-gap in the interior of your offensive line. He will delay blitz you, and that's one of the things I love about him, is that late closing burst, because when you're running certain blitzes and the timing of it all, you have to time up as an off-ball back of that blitz with the rush of your D-line. If you're a little bit too on the horse and you're a little bit too anxious, you're going to mess things up. You're not going to allow that engagement in the trenches to take place, right? Whereas when you time it and he does a good job of it, now you allow something to part, the Red Sea to open, and you have free access to the backfield and you can get to the quarterback. I just look at Carson Schwesinger, and again, Payton Wilson, I gotta look it up real quick. I think Payton might have been the guy that came out and it was a little bit bigger from a frame standpoint. So let me just double check here. He was, of course, a big time playmaker for the North Carolina State, defense. He came in just a taller player altogether, if I'm not mistaken. It's just a bigger player. 6'2", 225 for Carson Schwesinger. And look at Payton Wilson. He was 6'4", 230. 6'4", 230, ran a 4.43 with a 9.11 broad jump and a 1.54 10-yard split. I won't say that I believe Carson Schwesinger should absolutely have those type of testing numbers, but he's a good athlete. He's a good athlete downhill, dropping off into coverage, blitzing, what have you, attacking the A gap. He can do all those things, and he has the athleticism to get it done. And I just look at this young man and I said, man, if I can get him with the right DC, that will put him in advantageous situations. This is a guy, and then let's get into the negatives here, or the things that you worry about is the size, it's the frame, man. This is a guy that taking on blocks. He's undersized. He's listed at 6'2", 225. He's not the most filled in frame, so he's kind of undersized from a body type standpoint. He lacks the ideal play strength to be able to fight through, stack up those run blocks, climb into the second level if he's playing linebacker, things of that nature. He only had 1 year of production, truthfully. Up until this season, he only had the most tackles he had in this season before 2024, and all while being at UCLA. He tackled, like he had 100 tackles in 2024, but he only combined for 9 over the last 2 years. So he might have been dealing with some injuries, being banged up, something of that nature. But I just look at Carson Schwesinger, and I think he could be a really good piece and playmaker for an NFL defense. And I just think of his instincts, what he sees, and he trusts what he sees. That's the thing with vision. Don't tell me to give a running back more vision. You need to kind of be able to use it, right? So I look at him like he's not slow to what's going on. He sees it, he gets to it, he finds the ball, he makes plays. And I just think, okay, I'm not gonna compare him to Ryan Shazier. Ryan Shazier was an absolute maniac on the field. At the time I didn't appreciate his game, but when I went back and really watched, and the way he played, the motor he played with, absolutely. Ryan Shazier, just that motor was unreal for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the athleticism downhill. I'm not going to go out saying that Carson Schwesinger is like that, but he has some of that a little bit in his game. And I just think maybe you bulk him up to 230, 235, and just kind of see where you are in terms of, did we lose some of that dynamic explosiveness downhill? Did we lose some of the athleticism to drop off in coverage if you do decide to bulk him up a little bit? But again, 6'2", 225 pounds, man, the weigh-ins, I think the weigh-ins are going to be big for him at the combine for Carson. I think the weigh-ins and all that type of stuff, I think it's going to be major, because coming in at 235 compared to 225, yeah, it could do a world of a difference, man. I think he can bulk up a little bit, be ready to rock and roll, be ready to go. But nonetheless, guys, this is Carson Schwesinger, UCLA linebacker, 6'2", 225. He makes plays. He tackles. The functional strength shows up at the point of attack. He doesn't take on blocks well, and he does have missed tackles. I think PFF charted him for just this season. Missed tackles. Looks like they have him at 11 missed tackles on the season for over 7.5% completion percentage. It's got to clean it up. And Payton Wilson had the same thing. He didn't take on blocks well. He had some missed tackles because it's just so much athleticism that's unbridled that gets unleashed. And it's like, yeah, man, like you get a little ahead of yourself as a tackler, and you want to have correct form, correct weight distribution, be able to fire through the hips and make a sound tackle. But guys, coming up next, we are getting into one more linebacker, and that's Clemson's Barrett Carter. What does he bring to the table? Athleticism, coverage ability, all of that. Let's talk about that coming up next. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson, 6'1", 230 pounds. Pretty filled in frame, if you ask me. Barrett Carter was, and coming out of the summer, I talked to some scouts, and they had first round grades on Barrett Carter, which was interesting to me. Coming off a season where he didn't have his greatest year, but he was okay. He was solid. 4 sacks, 2 QB hits, 10 pressures, 5 batted passes is actually very impressive because it's hard to get your hands on the football when the quarterbacks are targeting, whether it be man or zone. It's just not easy to get your hands up, timing, right, things of that nature. So 5 batted passes is great. 67 tackles and everything. This is a guy that has 46 run stops. Okay, and he had 3 pass breakups. He did allow 5 touchdowns in coverage. And I think when I just look at what Barrett Carter brings to the table, I think he is someone that you just got to be you got to be willing to be creative with Barrett Carter and trust his skill set. I remember watching the South Carolina game and watching how the athletes that they had on that offense. And I just look at, Barrett Carter, and I remember watching him. He didn't get targeted on the play, but the way he covered. This is a guy that I think teams that play in more of a pass-happy conference, you want a Barrett Carter. You want a guy that can match up with the running backs out of the backfield, match up with even some slot receivers, and depend on what you do with your tight ends and different things of that nature. Like I said, slot receivers, running backs, because he does play a little bit in that overhang. And everything. And I think even going back to, I believe it was his freshman year, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he played 331 snaps in the slot. So at one point, it was almost like Isaiah Simmons 2.0. And that's not a good thing to say because how Isaiah Simmons' career has panned out and him never finding that niche role that just worked for him because Clemson used him all over the place. They did similar things with Barrett Carter as well. And I just look at Barrett Carter and I say, okay, for one thing he's got to improve on is play strength. I think his wingspan is okay. I do think it can be compromising at times in the alley as a run defender and tackler. I think that he needs to really work on that. Because if I look at the numbers, when you look at what PFF has him charted for, he's missed 36 tackles since 2022. That's insane. That's an insane number, man. 13.5% of his tackles were deemed missing. He missed the tackle. And I think he's also, I think his arms look a little stubby. They look a little alligator style. His arms just look shorter to me. And I think with the shorter arms, it can create those issues because you're not physically and violently making the contact initially, wrapping the arms and taking whoever you're taking that opponent down. The running back, the slot receiver, the tight end, the quarterback runs. And that's why I think also that his ability, his athleticism, he can bring value as a QB spy. He can bring that value to your offense and to your team. I just when I look at Barrett Carter, I think Barrett Carter is a guy that, similar to Carson Schwesinger, I want them behind big, beefy, strong, physical defensive lines. I always go back to Ray Lewis and what he had in Haloti Ngata. I always go back to that because when you got a guy that can absolutely wreck shop on the defensive line, yes, my linebackers can move and flow freely and feel good about it, man. They can. So, yes, when I think about Barrett Carter, I'm not comparing him to Ray Lewis, but just a situation like that where you have a strong physical defensive line in front of you. So now you can come do your part and be able to flow to the ball, be able to scrape and click and close, to be able to attack the line of scrimmage, to run that alley, different things like that. Because if you have those big defensive lines that can occupy blocks, now you feel comfortable. Now you feel good because you're doing exactly what you need to do. But guys, that's our show. Barrett Carter's skill set, I think he's versatile. He could do different things for you. Drop off in the coverage, blitz through the A gap, rush off of the edge, and play the runs to an extent. The things, again, when it comes down to his arm length and the wingspan and the play physicality and play strength, those things are going to be question marks until they aren't. Right? It's either prove that you have longer arms and you're stronger at the combine, or hey, maybe you just prove once you get into the league by securing tackles. He's got to do that and do it at a better rate. Carson Schwesinger, intriguing prospect. I think he's a developmental guy that you get on day 2, third round, 6'2", 225 out of UCLA, athletic, sideline to sideline range and mobility. I don't know. I just think this guy can be a nice playmaker on the second level of an NFL defense, man. I'm just telling you. And of course, Jihaad Campbell can do it all. He does all things. He does all things on the football field. Rush the passer, drop off in coverage, play the run, rush from multiple alignments, blitz, all those things. Like Jihaad Campbell is one of those just versatile chess pieces that you say, man, as a defensive coordinator, you're looking at your GM. Can we please get him into our linebacker room? Can we please just get him on this team so I can be as creative and a little crazy as I possibly can, simply because it really helps the process, man, when you have a guy that can do so many things well. And I think Jihaad Campbell is that, guys. But thank you for tapping in with us. Go subscribe and follow free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first day. And shout out for being our everydayers. Guys, on tomorrow's show, we are getting into running back tiers. Who are the bell cows? Who are the satellite space plane running backs? And who are the powerhouses? We'll talk about that and more on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.